and the Dukes weren't hazardous. She's only 17, made us curious. It was a carefree time. How about we jump back and rewind? We were living on Winger and a prayer, just garbage pail kids with mullets and big hair. Let's open up another pack. Gen X wants their future back. Break out the denim jackets and faded band patches. Share memories, Polaroid captured. It's the Gen X marks the spot podcast.
Greetings to the Gen X world. I am Joe Augustine, your host for Gen X Marks the Spot podcast. Today, we are sitting down with multi-instrumentalist. I had to say that perfectly because I've been practicing that word for the last half hour. Multi-instrumentalist Tyson Leslie. He is currently the keyboardist for Vixen. How cool is that? Hanging out with all the ladies from Vixen. You go, Tyson. I'm a little jealous there. What is really awesome about Tyson? It is his journey. Now, his journey is like none other. From South Korea as an infant born there to being adopted by an American family. Now, he is in Nashville making music with the best of them. But before we get into Tyson's story, we are going to do the segment of Gen X Marks the Spot, as we have now Beverly from Hagerstown, Maryland. She has written in and she has said 2 items that have marked the spot for her as a Gen Xer are, first, the Viewmaster of the 80s. Yes, you know, the little red toy that projected pictures such as Disney characters in the Grand Canyon looked like, you know, binoculars for us young kids back then. And in the 90s, it was the slap bracelets. Yes, I remember those, Beverly. Thank you so much. Now, for me, the only thing that comes close now to a Viewmaster is when I have to go to the eye doctor for an exam, and he says, "Yep, your vision still sucks. That's $400. Oh, man. And as for the slap bracelets, well, it doesn't pertain to me, but I know a few buddies of mine that I went to high school with. Their form of slap bracelets now are ankle monitors. Hey, that was all practice for us with the Viewmasters and the slap bracelets for when we got older. Anyway, back to Tyson. Yes, Tyson's journey, it is quite an incredible one, and he is going to talk about his journey from playing classical piano at his parents' home to winning a talent show, buying his first guitar, and now on the stage with Vixen. Here's my interview with Tyson Leslie. So you got your start, though, from a contest called Stars of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean that's how I got my first guitar. I was playing just piano, and it was just a talent contest in Greeley, Colorado, where I lived at the time, and I won first place in my age division and took that $100 and bought my first guitar. From there, at that point, you know, it was more about Motley Crue and Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister than Mozart and Beethoven and stuff like that. So I did play with George Lynch, and that was pretty awesome. I played with him a couple times. You know, I got to play keys behind Ace Frehley one time. You know, that's pretty wild. I mean, that was the first record I ever bought was Love Gun by Kiss.
Oh, nice.
And then the Star Wars soundtrack and the Sesame Street Sings. I bought those 3 records all the same day. And so at a convention called Creatures Fest, we recreated all of the acoustic, the unplugged Kiss album, that performance. We recreated musically that performance. And Ace came up and did 2000 Man and a couple other songs, and I played with him on that, and playing music with Billy Sheehan. And he's become a friend of mine, and he's like been my all-time favorite bass player for decades. So it's surreal all in itself. In fact, he's playing at a charity show that I have coming up in December.
the Rare Hair event.
Yes.
Ted, you want to talk a little bit about that since we brought that up?
Rare Hair is initially started as a band. There's just going to be a band that played a bunch of deep cut 80s hard rock from the Sunset Strip, that the big hair days, I guess, as they say. I realized that that probably wouldn't sell very well. It probably wouldn't fill many seats in a club. There was a guy named Tom Hurst that was putting a jam together every month in Nashville about 10 years ago called Loud Jams. It was basically like an iPod on shuffle every night. It was everything from Steely Dan to Sting to Steve Vai to Run DMC to the Yellow Jackets. Like, I mean, musically, it was just all over the place. And I love that because that's what my shuffle is like. It's extremely eclectic. And I thought if we honed in on just a theme for the jam, it would maybe create an audience. So we started Rare Hair in January of 2016, and we brought all these like guys that play for the big country acts. The guy that play arenas and stadiums for a living. They're all rock guys at heart. They all grew up on Dokken and Skid Row and Motley Crue and all that stuff. So they all can play. A lot of them can play like that, but they don't get to showcase that when they're playing for Taylor Swift or Florida Georgia Line or whatever band that they play for, artists they play for. So this gave them an opportunity to kind of loosen up and do stuff that they don't normally do. And the first one was extremely successful. We did it, I believe it was January 11th of 2016 at a very small place called Douglas Corner that is no longer a thing anymore. And it was packed. And I was like, man, okay, this could actually be something good. And so we did the second one at a bit bigger venue, and we brought in the band Faster Pussycat, which is from the 80s era. And that one was really successful. So we just kept going. And now, 10 years later, we're about to do our 22nd show. Every show is a charity event. So, we bring in about 100 to 150 different musicians. Each song has a different lineup of people on it, and pick a different local based Nashville charity every time. And it's been working out really nice.
That's awesome, man. So giving back to the community, giving back to the other musicians,
It's a community builder. It's a way for everybody to kind of, because we're always playing gigs. We're always doing stuff all the time. So a lot of times we don't get to see each other very often. So this gives us an opportunity to put a bunch of folks in a room and reconnect.
and I think you mentioned for this event that's coming up, is it December 16th?
December 16th, yes.
So the charity event that you have for this one, it is, and I don't know the exact name, but
So it's a company called Creative Vets. And what they do is they take veterans who have issues with PTSD and various other just mental health troubles, and they channel release of those things through art. So they teach them how to, you know, sculptures and write songs, write poetry, painting, drawing, all kinds of anything that's creative in that way. And they've paired like major songwriters or major country stars even will come in and work with these vets and write songs together and release and go in the studio and record them. And I thought that was a really good and cool way to help these people. And I found this one, I was like, man, this is unique. This is really cool. And it falls in line with what we already do, which is play music. So that's what we're doing this time around.
and speaking of vets, I wanted to reach out to you regarding your own personal history. So you were born in 1974 in Vietnam, and you were a
Yes.
part of the Operation Baby Lift, which basically was a mass evacuation of well over 10,000 children from southern Vietnam during the final days of the war.
Yes.
And you came to the United States and was adopted through an agency called Families with Children Adopted from Vietnam,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and a family in Colorado had adopted you. And
That's
um,
Paul and Donna Leslie. Came here in 75. Like literally, I was 9 months old. So I wasn't even a whole year old yet. And got taken in by the Leslie family in Greeley, Colorado. It was a great place to grow up, actually. I had a lot of fun, good childhood, and nothing terribly, horrible. I mean, it was just a pretty normal upbringing. And my parents, my dad, they were both encouraged me to take piano lessons from a lady up the street. And so I did. And I was obsessed with the movie Amadeus. I wanted to be Mozart when I was, I saw that movie and I saw this kid. I literally would watch that movie every day after I would get out of school. Like, it's just a long 3-hour movie almost. And I would watch the whole thing all the time because I was so taken in by this kid that was able to write symphonies at the age of 5, and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, I just thought that was incredible. And, um, but then MTV happened and I discovered, Michael Jackson and Prince and Madonna and Motley Crue and Twisted Sister and Quiet Riot and all the things that were happening at the time. Devo. That was it, man. At that point, I was glued to the TV damn near 24/7 watching that channel and trying to learn how to play Sweet Child of Mine on a guitar. All the things that everybody did at that time period.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I moved to Kansas City when I was probably about 7th grade, 8th grade. And that's when I started really getting into bands or trying to figure all that stuff out and how that worked. Because the idea of bands when I was still in Colorado I wasn't quite there. I was still an adolescent, so to speak, and I wasn't even a teenager yet. So I hadn't really gotten into the band stuff until I moved to Kansas City. And I remember I met this kid named Joe, and he had this band called White Armor, which, and they were horrendously bad. And, and then eventually I moved to, I didn't never get a band formed at that time. I just would play my guitar and play piano and different functions by myself. But then I moved to Wichita, Kansas, and I'm in 2009, 1980, 1990, 89, 80, 90 for like a year and a half. And at that point, I actually did form a band. It was really dumb. It was called Donner and Blitzen.
Oh
and
my.
and we played like the school talent show, which was hilarious because we played everything from Yellow Submarine by the Beatles to Slayer's version of Inagata Davida, which was ridiculous. And and we had a good time though, and and this kid Chris, his dad knew how to fix guitars and do stuff, and had old tape machines and guitar amps. It's the first time I'd ever seen stuff like that. And then I had a cousin, his name was Dean. He played in a band called Legend. That was the first time I ever saw Marshall amplifiers in front of my face. Like, I saw them for real. And so those types of things were kind of influential on me to see, and be around people that have done it. And, Dean was playing in bars, and it was a big deal for me. I mean, he was playing cover songs like everybody else playing, but I'd never seen a real musician doing real things like playing Living After Midnight and Winger songs and stuff like that in bars. So that was pretty impressive to me. And my other cousin Gary also at the time was a guitar player. He doesn't really play anymore, but I think Dean still does. And so that was pretty impressionable to me as well, having family members that were actually in it and doing it. And I was like, okay, no, but I always wanted to do it my whole life. That's for long as I can remember. That's what I'm doing now is what I've always wanted to do.
Going back to the Stars of Tomorrow, I know you won first place and got your first guitar with that and such. What was your first real break?
I
How
mean,
did that come about into working with professional musicians?
no, I mean, I don't know. I would say if I was my first real break into playing on a national level or playing with artists that people know, um, didn't come until I was about 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was playing with Corey Taylor from Slipknot, and he had a solo band at the time that he was starting out and trying out, and it didn't last very long. We only lasted about a little over a year, and then I think the record label and his wife and everything else was like, okay, you need to go back to the things that are making us money right now, which is Slipknot, Stone Sour, and a book that you're about to put out. And so he scrapped our band, and that music didn't see the light of day until a few years ago. But that was my first kind of venture into the majors leagues, so to speak. And so I guess my first real taste was, oh, you're going to open for James Young at Sticks at Neener's Bar and Grill in Independence, Missouri, which I mean, at the time was a big deal. Or you're opening for this big local band, Sing Sing or Wired or whoever was popular at the time. Those kind of moments were whoever you're opening up for and things like that. There was a guy named Jim Kilroy in Kansas City that was a promoter, and he took a chance on us, man. And he's not the most well liked guy in town because of some of the way he used to do things, but I have to say that guy for decades has always given me a shot. He's always done things for me that and given me chances, and he didn't have to. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
nobody, and I don't know. I was just a kid off the street like everybody else trying to figure out how to be a rock star, and he gave me an opportunities to to play places to showcase what we do.
You started working with Tracy Lawrence?
Gosh, that was many, many years after. I was almost a decade after that. So Corey was 2009, 10, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that ended, I thought my career was over because I'm like, shit, I'm 40 years old almost, and I'm just gonna hire an old guy, to play and whatever. And then so I just started working at a piano bar called Howl at the Moon. It's a dueling piano bar company that has locations all over the United States. I started playing there in Kansas City for a couple of years, and I was super burned out. Around 2015, I got a phone call from a guy named Rich Redmond who plays drums for Jason Aldean. It was a pretty random call. I hadn't even seen or talked to that guy in like 5, 6 years. And he knew me as a bass player because he'd come in and sat in with a band that I played bass in called 90 Minutes. That was a 90s cover band. And he told me there was some, new opportunity for a country band that he thought I would fit in really well. I, and it was like startup, startup band, $100 a gig, van and trailer. I'm like, dude, I'm like 40. I have 3 kids. I did all that when I was 20 something, and it was great. But I couldn't afford to do that now. Like, what else is there? And he basically asked me what I want to do for a career, what I'm trying to do with my music career. And I was like, well, basically want to do what you're doing before I age out of this whole thing. I want to get back on the road and play for an artist, or play in a band that's touring and doing all the things. So, well, you got to move to Nashville because you got to be present to win. You got to be around when it's time to take an audition or have a lunch meeting or whatever it is that you need to do to network to get yourself there. So me and my girl at the time and my littlest boy Nelson, we all packed up and moved out here in 2015. And 2 months later, I was jumping on a bus playing with Tracy Lawrence, playing country music for the first time, which was terrifying because I was terrible at it and I didn't grow up on it. I grew up
Right.
on when Tracy was popular. I was listening to Alice in Chains and Tool. I wasn't listening to him, so I didn't know any of his songs at all. I had to learn them all from scratch, and I had 2 weeks to learn 38-ish songs or something like that, and it was challenging, man. And I got fired a month later. I remember going to that jam I was talking about earlier with my tail between my legs. We had a rehearsal for it, and I knew instantly that everybody was going to ask me, "Hey, you got this gig? Congratulations! How's it going?" And I was going to have to tell them I already lost the gig. And one of the first guys I ran into was Matt Billingsley, and that was sure enough. He's like, how's the gig going? Well, I don't have the gig anymore, and he could tell I was distraught and about it. And he said, look around this whole room. There was a whole room full of guys who played arenas and stadiums for a living, and he was just like, every single person in here has been fired from a gig in this town, including me. I got fired from Lady Antebellum, and I have one of the best gigs you can get. Period. I was like, okay, yeah, that's true. All right. And the second guy I ran into said the same thing. So I started to feel better about everything. So I just played in a piano bar here in Nashville for a little about a year. A place called the Big Bang that is no longer here anymore. And um, And then I got a call from a guy named Tony Higbee about the Vixen gig playing with the band Vixen. And I've been in that band ever since. I auditioned in February of 2017, and we joined and played our first gig in April in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh wow. Love Vixen. Roxy Petrucci, one hell of a drummer.
And she's an awesome person as well. We're doing we have a Christmas song coming out this year, and then we have about 3 or 4 songs that we're kind of tossing around at the moment, trying to figure out what direction we want to go with them, and trying to just hone in on something that's going to be really good. Because whatever we do put out next, we want it to be really solid.
And you're kind of back in your realm with, hard rock, heavy metal instead of being out on that country scene.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing a little bit of everything right now. I've written a ton of country songs actually that I'm
Nice.
trying to shop and sell and figure out, because I'm not trying to write them for me because I'm a terrible country singer. I sound silly, um, and so they can hopefully somebody hears one of these songs and decides to take it and run with it, because otherwise it'd be a lot better to have somebody out there performing them than have them just sit in a hard drive on my computer.
Man, I wish you luck with that. I mean, you have some bands that you have worked with. Maybe, you can shop them around. You also worked with Florida Georgia Line, Kelly Clarkson Band, and Taylor Swift's band as well.
We've even done other gigs together, like Amos, Taylor's bass player, and I did a Faith No More tribute show together with one time, which was super fun, and that was with the drummer from Accept, Christopher, and my friend Josh Rosen, who put that whole thing together. And so it's like, yeah, we'll get in these weird scenarios where we'll be playing together on shows like that, or just one-off stuff. I've never really done like a full country band with any of these people or anything like that, but I'll have some various opportunities come up that like that where just one-off shows. It's like, okay, tonight we're playing, like I've got an Aussie tribute show with a bunch of guys I've never even met coming up that are all like studio pro guys and stuff like that. So I'm excited to meet with them, and it's kind of also how you further your network in Nashville is you just jump in and whatever you say yes until you can say no. You say a lot of yes, and then you're like, okay, I can say no now to some of these things, unless it's worth my while.
So I do want to back up for a moment with the Corey Taylor.
Yeah.
How did that all come about with you being in a band with Corey Taylor?
I was in a band called Pomeroy for many years, and we toured all over the country in a van and trailer and sharing Taco Bell meals because we couldn't afford to buy one ourselves. We had to buy like 3 and then split it because we we didn't have enough money just to buy one for ourselves. And we played a place called the Green Room in Iowa City, and we were early, and we were never early for anything, but for some reason that day we were early. And so Matt, the guitar player, and I walked in early and just to check out. We always just get to the venue. Let's go in and see what the venue's like. What's the stage like? Meet the managers or the owners or whoever's paying us, and taking care of the stage. We walk in and the band's already playing, and we're like, well, shit, are we in the wrong place? And and they're really good. They're a band called Dystrophy, and they're a metal band, but they are super solid with a really cool light show and this guitar player with a killer voice, and it was really good. And Matt and I were like, man, this band is awesome. Like, we need to know who these guys are. And so we did. We met them and we hung out with them pretty much all night, I think. And Ryan, the drummer, and I clicked really quickly and became pretty good friends. Well, he's from Des Moines, and
Mm.
he and Corey's kids go to school together, and they're friends. So when it's time for Corey to put this solo band together, he hires Ryan, among other people, and he wants a keyboard player. So Ryan calls me. And so I would drive back and forth from Kansas City to Des Moines to do rehearsals and stuff, which was surreal in itself. The first time I go over to Corey's house, there's one of the Slipknot masks from the third album just sitting on the kitchen counter. I'm just like,
Wow.
this is okay, this is weird. like
Yeah.
that's pretty cool and awkward. I'm not going to touch that because I don't know where it's been, but like that's a piece of history just chilling on the counter in the, in the kitchen. Like what? But yeah, so we started playing, and the funny thing is, the music that they started doing initially was not good. It was really bad, actually. And I remember driving home from Des Moines one day, calling the saxophone player, going, "I don't know if I want to do this, man. I mean, I know it's Corey, and that's cool." Corey wasn't singing; he was just playing guitar at the time initially,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was this goofy joke band called the Junk Beer Kidnap Band, which is the dumbest band name ever, and it was supposed to be like Mr. Bungle but funny,
Right.
and but it just was kind of dumb, and I was feeling really discouraged about it, and I drove home and called Tommy. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I should keep doing this because I don't like any of this stuff at all, and I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. And I'm driving 3 hours to rehearsal to come up here, and I love Corey and I love the band guys. Everybody's cool, but the music is weird, and I'm having a hard time really getting behind it. And then I don't remember when it was the timeline, but I got a call from Ryan, and he goes, "Hey, we're gonna scrap all this stuff, and we're gonna just be Corey's solo backup band." I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And he goes, "I'm gonna send you the songs right now. Listen to them. If you dig them, then we're gonna move forward in that direction." I was like, "Okay." So he sent me the songs, and they were awesome. They were really good. And I was like, "This I can get behind. Yes, let's do this. This is way more what I signed up for." And then next thing you know, we're playing festivals all over the country, like Rock Fest in Kansas City and Laser Fest in Des Moines and some other festival in like Phoenix, Arizona. And we're opening for Steel Panther at the Roxy. But we're opening with Let's Go Crazy by Prince. And the audience is like, what the hell is this? What is happening right now? This is weird. And the music that Corey was writing at the time wasn't heavy at all. It wasn't metal. It was way more Rolling Stones than Slipknot or Stone Sour. So we didn't really fit in with all these metal bands at all, but we were having a good time. And then eventually, about 2000 or 2021, I think, or 22 is when he finally put out his first solo record with a whole different band of guys. And some of those songs we were playing back then are on it, and they're just different now. They're more updated, and there was definitely some edits, and they sound, in most cases, they sound better. They came out really good.
Do you have any writing credits on those or on that first album?
Oh man, no, I wish that'd be awesome, but no, we never got that far. We were writing together. They were all just Corey songs. We were just playing what he wrote.
And you never gave up on your dream.
No, I mean, this is all I know to do, man. I'm a sponge. I play other people's stuff for a living. That's how I've made a living. I do obviously write my own material, and I'm trying to get that stuff out there as well. And I'm trying to move more in that direction now, since I spent so much time playing other people's songs. It's like, okay, I'm ready to get my stuff out there again.
Other than writing your new music and playing with Vixen, what other aspirations do you have? Or is right now you're like, I'm chill, I'm good, taking a breather?
Well, I just started playing with Ricky Rocket from Poison and his Rocket Mafia band. I started out playing bass in it. Now I'm back on keys, and and Brandon, the singer, and I are gonna start tossing around original songs and trying to figure out what fits for that band because they want some original material, which I'm excited about that because right now we're just basically a cover band because we wanted to get off the ground and start playing, and that was a way for us to kind of come together. And it features Mick Sueda from the Bullet Boys on guitar, and then excuse me, Ricky on drums, obviously, and a guy named Brandon Gibbs on guitar, on the lead vocal and the other guitar, and a guy named Mike he was out with Puddle of Mud recently, but he's not doing that anymore. He's playing bass now, and I'm on keys, and we're gonna just kind of see where this goes next year. Essentially, I don't know if you've seen all of the back and forth that Ricky's had with with Pete Evick from Brett Michaels' band, but And they basically finally put it out there that Poison is not reforming next year and touring for their 40th anniversary, which is unfortunate. But so Ricky's looking to be busy, I think, with us, which is great for us, I guess. You know, as much as I would love to see Poison reform, I also wouldn't mind being working. So that part kind of falls into good fortune for us. Hopefully, we get some new music out there and start playing some shows. And then Vixen will be, you know, pretty busy next year, I would imagine.
So, how did you get hooked up with the Rocket Mafia?
Brandon, the singer, we've been friends for a long time, but we never worked together. And so the bass player they had wasn't able to do a run of gigs, and they called me. And don't get me wrong, I thought it was weird. Like I'm like, out of all these like out of the gazillions of bass players in Los Angeles, that you know some semi-famous or some who play. I mean, there's so many bass players. Uh, you're calling a guy in Nashville who's known as a keyboard player. Okay, cool. I'll take it because I've been trying to move away from keys for a while. That's all I've done for years, you know, and I love playing bass. Um, I love playing guitar and other instruments and stuff. So I was super excited to get away from keys for a minute, and then so we did a run in the summertime in July for a couple weeks, and it was super fun. And for whatever reason, I'm not 100% sure what exactly happened, but between the summertime gigs and the last gig we did, Michael ended up coming in on bass, and I went over to keys, and we had a blast. We had a great time, and we had to have Jeremy Asbrock from Ace's band fill in for Mick because Mick had some health things going on that he wasn't able to perform. So it was kind of actually, you know, it was fun to be on keys actually in that scenario and be able to front songs. There was a couple songs where I just went out front and sang because Brandon was under the weather that week. So we were trying to make sure he had a good voice for the whole show and stuff like that. And we had a blast, man. It was a really good show, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that next year.
Does this mean you're officially part of the Rocket Mafia, or fingers crossed?
That's a good question. I it is. I guess I would say it's more of a fingers crossed kind of scenario. He just signed on to with Pavement Records, I believe. So the main thing now is to concentrate on writing some material to give to the label so that we can get out there and we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you as well. I mean, that would be a great opportunity. It seems like almost your rise in the music industry. I don't want to say it was overnight. I mean, you put your time and your hard work and your sweat and tears into it, but good things are happening for you right now.
They are, yeah. I can't complain. That's for sure. I mean, one thing about my career, these last few years have been incredible. I mean, I've been fortunate to play with some of my biggest heroes. You know, playing. I mean, when I did that Eddie Trunk's 40th anniversary show a couple of years ago, that was one of the best days of my life. You know, my biggest dream gig was playing for Alice Cooper. It's been that since high school, and I got to play 3 songs with him. You know, I got to jam with Pound Cake with Sammy Hagar. I mean, it's just insane. So Corey was there too, and I hadn't seen Corey since 2009, 10, something like that. You know, we had a bit of a falling out. I don't exactly know quite what that's over yet still, but well, you know, that was the first time we saw each other, and it was the first time we kind of got to hug it out and talk a little bit. And unfortunately, we have not reconnected since then. I really hope that we do because I miss that guy a lot. He was a big driving force in my life for a little while, and more than he knows, you know, musically, but also on a personal level.
Oh, wow, man. Everybody always, kind of makes these memes about what would Corey Taylor say or what would Corey Taylor do, and
Yeah.
but
Well, he does get featured a lot in Blabbermouth and stuff like that. So I understand that.
Right. But no, I've always been a fan of Corey Taylor, Slipknot, and Stone Sour, and just knowing that I'm talking to someone who actually played with Corey Taylor, man. He's one of these guys now that are I look at him as someone who is going to carry the torch for the older school metalheads and singers and so forth like that. Keep up the great work with Vixen.
Thank you.
Keep those girls in line. Somebody's got to.
They're keeping me in line.
All right, Tyson. Well, hey, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
When you talk about a journey in the music industry, you have to think of Tyson Leslie. His journey is really that of resilience. He has never given up. From winning that talent show as a kid in Colorado, using that prize money to buy his first guitar, to becoming one of Nashville's most versatile and hardest working musicians. That right there is about the love of music. And how about those years with Corey Taylor? But that was Tyson just getting a taste of working with metal's biggest voices and learning what it meant to share the stage with legends. But unfortunately, there was some downtime. But Tyson, as you can tell, man, he never stopped. He kept playing music and getting his name out there. And just when you think a journey might be over, not with Tyson. He started something that would become legendary in Nashville's music scene, the Rare Hair concerts. What began as just an idea transformed into one of Nashville's most anticipated and celebrated jam-style shows. They happen about 3 to 5 times a year. Can you imagine the dedication, the time, and the energy it takes to have those shows put together? And Tyson, he's the man behind all of that. So I just got to give props to Tyson Leslie, multi-instrumentalist. There, I got it out again perfectly. At least I hope. And Tyson, man, you keep on doing you, brother. You are killing it with Vixen, holding down those keys for one of the most iconic all-female rock bands of the 80s. And here is also to hoping you become a part of the Rocket Mafia alongside Poison's Ricky Rocket. And I'll be following along on social media, praying that you do become a part of that awesome collaborative. Tyson Leslie, you are definitely a musician who simply refuses to quit. Props to you. Props to everybody for listening out there. Peace out. This is Joe from Gen X Marks the Spot podcast from wherever I may roam studio.
It's the Gen X Marks the